Monday of the 14th week in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the book of Genesis. Jacob departed from Beersheba and proceeded toward Haran. When he came upon a certain shrine, as the sun had already set, he stopped there for the night. Taking one of the stones at the shrine, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep at that spot. Then he had a dream. A stairway rested on the ground, with its top reaching to the heavens, and God's messengers were going up and down on it. And there was the Lord standing beside him and saying, I, the Lord, am the God of your forefather Abraham and the God of Isaac. The land on which you are lying I will give to you and your descendants. These shall be as plentiful as the dust of the earth, and through them you shall spread out east and west, north and south. In you and your descendants all the nations of the earth shall find blessing. Know that I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go and bring you back to this land. I will never leave you until I have done what I promised you. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he exclaimed, Truly, the Lord is in this spot, although I did not know it. In solemn wonder, he cried out, How awesome is this shrine! This is nothing else but an abode of God, and that is the gateway to heaven. Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone that he had put under his head, set it up as a memorial stone, and poured oil on top of it. He called the site Bethel, whereas the former name of the town had been Luz. Jacob then made this vow, If God remains with me, to protect me on this journey I am making, and to give me enough bread to eat and clothing to wear, and I come back safe to my father's house, the Lord shall be my God. This stone that I have set up as a memorial stone shall be God's abode. The word of the Lord.
The responsorial psalm. The response is, In you, my God, I place my trust. You who dwell in the shelter of the Most High, who abide in the shadow of the Almighty, say to the Lord, My refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. In you, my God, I place my trust. For he will rescue you from the snare of the faller, from the destroying pestilence. With his pinions he will cover you, and under his wings you shall take refuge. In you, my God, I place my trust. Because he clings to me, I will deliver him. I will set him on high because he acknowledges my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in distress. In you, my God, I place my trust.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. While Jesus was speaking, an official came forward, knelt down before him, and said, My daughter has just died. But come, lay your hand on her, and she will live. Jesus rose and followed him, and so did his disciples. A woman suffering hemorrhages for 12 years came up behind him and touched the tassel on his cloak. She said to herself, If only I can touch his cloak, I shall be cured. Jesus turned around and saw her and said, Courage, daughter, your faith has saved you. And from that hour the woman was cured. When Jesus arrived at the official's house and saw the flute players and the crowd who were making a commotion, he said, Go away. The girl is not dead, but sleeping. And they ridiculed him. When the crowd was put out, he came and took her by the hand, and the little girl arose. And news of this spread throughout all that land. The Gospel of the Lord.
Monday of the 14th week in Ordinary Time. The first reading comes from Genesis 28, 10-22a. Jacob is fleeing from his brother Esau because remember, he's stolen the blessing of Isaac his father, and he realizes that Esau, being a very violent man, will probably kill him. On the way, he stops at a certain shrine. Eventually it'll be given the name Bethel. This is an etiology, an explanation of how the shrine is associated with the patriarchs. According to this story, Jacob lays his head down on a rock, and he has a dream in which he sees the heavens open and a ladder going up into the heavens and angels ascending and descending. He is told that God is speaking with him, the God of Abraham and Isaac, and that the promises that he made to Abraham and Isaac will be made to him. Remember, even though Jacob is not the most savory of characters, he nevertheless is a child of the promise. And he has received the blessing of Isaac, even though he stole it. And therefore, he is going to receive the blessing of God. What does Jacob say? If God grants me all these things, if he allows me to return safely, if he provides me with food and clothes, then truly I will worship God in this sight. Notice, if. Jacob is always a finagler. He's always bargaining with people or God. And so his belonging to God is not without conditions. He says that God has to fulfill his part, and then Jacob will fulfill his part. It's always that idea that I will give to you my allegiance if you protect me. And granted, many of us say that prayer in one form or another, but it's not the highest level of surrender to God's love. The Gospel is from Matthew 9:18-26. This is Matthew's version of the story of the woman with the hemorrhage and the daughter of Jairus. In this version, we don't hear that it's the daughter of Jairus. We simply hear that the daughter of an official has died. And she has died even before Jesus sets out. So Jesus is not setting out to heal a girl who's at the point of death, but somebody who has already died. On the way, a woman with a hemorrhage, and this is probably the menstrual flow. She has suffered from this for many years. She wants to touch Jesus' garment. Now, if she does that, she'll make Jesus unclean. And that's why in Matthew's version, although it says that she wanted to touch the hem of the garment, it never quite says that she does touch it. The final author of Matthew's Gospel was probably a converted Pharisee. And he's a little bit touchy about this idea that a woman with a hemorrhage would touch Jesus. So he leaves it ambiguous. Jesus responds, your faith has saved you. And remember, when there is no expression of faith, the word that is used is healed. When there's an expression of faith, the word used is saved. And that's what happens in this case. And then Jesus goes to the house of the official. There are already flute players and people mourning. This was typical of the funeral of somebody in the family of an official. He would hire people to mourn. He would hire flute players to make sure it was a proper funeral. Well, Jesus says the girl's not dead, she's only asleep. They laugh. Notice how little they're emotionally involved in this. They're being paid by the tear. They don't really care about what happened to the girl. And then Jesus raises her from the dead. Remember, this is not a resurrection. This is a reanimation. Resurrection means somebody receives a glorified body and will never die again. Reanimation, the person's brought back to life, but one day would die again. The people who are brought back to life in the Gospels, with the exception of Jesus, Jairus' daughter, the son of the widow of Nain, and Lazarus are all reanimated. And may God bless us.